Hello and welcome to Midnight Scribe's Creative Vibes, where we speak to the best of the bronies and discover what makes them tick. It's very rare that I get to interview someone who lives in Scotland on this show. Now, I can guarantee you that this will be an amazing episode because not only is she living in Scotland, practically adopted by us if that's not awesome enough, but for free, you'll also get to hear about a multifaceted, talented artist who's as happy with a pencil as she is with a tablet. I want you all to give a nice, big, warm welcome to Bethiebo. Beth, how are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. Bit tired, like I said, work and whatnot.
Oh, listen, I know how tough and hard work is at the moment. I am literally falling asleep in the chair right now, so don't worry. I completely get it, but we are going to stay awake for you because you are awesome, so do not worry.
No.
And all those cat noises are too cute. No, I've been getting too many Snapchats of cats. This is just... this is too adorable. Oh, well, to step back from the adorableness and go to the musically awesome, also on the show today, we have a guest who was last on Creative Vibes in our very first season. Yes, back in 2015, in just the 4th episode, he came on this show and dealt with an amateur, wobbly, and ever so slightly confused me. Oh, he's going to be disappointed, not much has changed. A hearty welcome to Sketchy Sounds. How have you been, Sketch?
Hello. Oh, I have been pretty well. And I wouldn't say I'm going to be that disappointed. You seem a little bit less wobbly and so forth now, so I'm sure it'll be fine.
And you're hitting me with the compliments, man. Honestly, the feels I'm getting right now. How? Oh, good lord! I've got to be professional. I can't get red faced right now. Not right now. No.
Do it.
And I am secretly, but I don't know if it's the compliments or the Baileys. I'm not sure yet. Possibly both. Maybe both.
Probably both. A little from column A, a little from column B.
Oh, listen, nothing wrong with that at all. But hey, listen,
not at all.
Oh, exactly. But it's great to have you on the show, Beth. And I mean, I've been familiar with your work for a while because obviously I've seen you at the conventions, particularly at Brony Scott. I obviously know about yourself and Sketch. But, I mean, of course, what most people know you for is your traditional art and your digital art. And I have a wee question here from a very close friend of ours and a very close friend of the show, James Cork, who...
yeah, what's he been asking?
Oh, well,
Should I be scared?
Well, I could
literally go in the other room and beat him up.
Oh, yes, of course.
He's still with us right now.
Exactly, he is now currently 2 rooms away, and I did sneakily prod him 10 minutes before the show, going, "Hey James, any questions for Beth that I should know about? Any gossip? Please tell me, I need something for the show." And he gave me... I know. Well, listen, he was actually ever the consummate professional, and he asked just one question, and I agree with him, because this is actually quite an interesting point, because I always like, particularly when we have artists on the show who dabble in different types of art, and particularly traditional and digital obviously being the 2 mains. What we would like to know, and particularly James as well, is are you a fan of the future, or do you prefer the old ways of doing art?
Bit of both. I don't know. I just do whatever I feel like doing.
You just go with the heart.
Yeah. Depends what I'm feeling like doing. If I look around my room right now, for traditional things, I have a canvas that's in progress, and it's like a silk painting. It's a couple of silk paintings that are lazing around as well. Quite a few files on the computer and whatnot as well. So I got things everywhere. I need more space.
There is no shortage of both traditional and digital art kicking about the place right now. So,
well, that doesn't surprise me, particularly the amount of work, Beth, that you're actually putting into your art. And actually, you actually brought up something there that I did want to ask because, in the very brief time that I've done this show, and I am no artist in any way, shape, or form, so I'm constantly getting exposed to new things. And when I was researching yourself, Beth, the one thing that I came across that I hadn't heard of before until now, and I don't know if this makes me a chump or if this is something that I don't actually, if this is something that's unusual, but you actually just mentioned there, silk painting. Now, I understand both those words. I don't understand them together.
It's kind of a bit of a resist technique. Something I learned about when I did textiles at college. In this case, you just use water soluble resist to paint in your lines, and then you use inks to fill them in. I go the extra mile and I embroider onto some wadding to make it a bit more cushioned and whatnot. And then sometimes I'll machine sew, sometimes I'll hand sew. Depends what I feel like doing. It changes literally every time.
Well, it's interesting to learn about it because, like I said, this is not a particular style of painting or creativity that I've actually been exposed to before. So this is actually quite fascinating. And how long have you actually been doing this type of silk painting for?
I've known how to do this for nearly 10 years, but I don't actually do it very often because I haven't had many of the supplies until like last year or whatnot for myself. At least I didn't keep up with my supplies after college, so...
Just life getting in the way, things changing around and so on.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a matter of time, money, and supplies, pretty much.
Of course, well, I imagine it must take a lot of time to actually make a silk painting. Like, what's the process like, and how long does it actually take to actually go from, like, the initial concept to a completed piece?
Well, most of the time I like to sketch things out first, and then you need to get whatever you're using. I use something called gutta. That's like your resistor to put the lines in, and you need to paint that in, let it dry. And then if you're doing multiple colours, then obviously you need to repeat that again. Then once that's dry, you get your inks, you paint that in, you let that dry. And then it depends on how detailed it is and how long it'll take if you're adding any sewing or embroidery. So it can take anything up to, I guess potentially it could take up to 50 hours for a big one. I haven't done one that large for a while though, so I don't actually remember.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, I'm not surprised that it takes plenty of time to actually get from initial concept to a completed piece. And I actually noticed as well, because I believe you actually have a silk painting actually on sale on your Etsy.
I do. Nobody wanted it, but I haven't had time to market it around for a while, to be fair.
We'll put them in the description below.
Buy her stuff. Buy her stuff.
Buy her stuff.
Oh my gosh. You guys.
Hey, listen, your stuff's awesome. Listen, full disclosure for anyone watching, I have actually commissioned Bethiebo in the past to actually do a title card for one of my old shows, Forgotten Records. Totally recommend her. Awesome art. And actually, because of course you've been doing commissions and you've been doing that on the side, and of course you've been in education, you're in work just now. A lot of things going on, frankly, that you're having to juggle. And how are you actually finding the experience and finding the balance?
I'm still trying to find it.
But actually, going back to your art for a moment, because we've talked a little bit about your traditional side and a bit about the silk paintings as well. The one thing when I was actually going through your archive of paintings and pieces and so on, that really stuck out, and in a good way, because I absolutely loved the piece, was how you actually did a piece in Illustrator of Hayley Williams, which, can anyone guess who's she from? I can't actually speak.
I can't remember. It was something my friend. It's one of the things my friends said. Do this because it's cool, and then I just uploaded it, and that was years ago. That was.
I know. This is how far back I went into your timeline. That I went serious digging in there.
Oh no! How dare you go so far back? I don't even remember when I did that one actually. There we go. Where is it? What year was that? That was 2012.
Yeah, there's a slight worrying thought that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just take a moment to be nostalgic for 2012. Oh,
6 years ago.
So, I'll tell you what, since we're actually dreading to go into the nostalgia zone, how were things 6 years ago in terms of your arting, and how do you think things have changed since then?
I was doing a lot of tracing, and back then I was still learning things from a digital perspective. Because that was when I was just starting to learn the digital side of it, or at least more the do things yourself side of it, because I did graphics at college and whatnot, so I learned the basics of all the programs, but I had to do it within what they wanted. So now 6 years ago was when I was started to become free to explore how I wanted to do things, I guess.
When was it that we brought you on for Ask Brett? I can't remember.
2013.
2013, yeah. So like a year after that then, so...
Mm-hmm.
So was that the point where you started doing MLP content then, or was that a little bit earlier?
Probably like a month or two after I started.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it was 2013 when... so that was when I was involved with Ask Britannia, and we had been looking to get a few more artists to help us out.
I'm finding the email now.
And yeah, so we put the word out, and Beth applied to help us out with that, and her art was up to scratch. So
it was March 2013 to be exact.
Ah, there you go.
St. Paddy's Day was the first fun things I worked on.
That's right. Yes, I remember that. That was quite entertaining, that update.
Mm-hmm.
And was that the first time then you two had actually met as well?
I think it was at least over a year before we actually met in person.
Well, that was the first time we had communicated on the internet, though. Yes. I was going to say, I mean, how much of the audience do you think actually knows what our current relationship is?
That is a very interesting question. One that I don't actually know the answer to. I don't know how public you are with it.
I mean, we don't make any secret of it. But I mean, for the record, myself and Beth are actually engaged. Because we met, obviously, it's a fun little story. We met through Aspertania, in fact, because that was what put us working together. Became friends through that, didn't actually meet in person until nearly a year later. And it wasn't until, funnily enough,
the very first
Brony Scott was where we actually hit it off and found that there was a little bit more to our relationship than just friendship. So it's a funny thing. There's been ponies involved on every step of the way, so to speak.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, we're adorable like that.
Yeah, no, listen, I appreciate the adorableness, and I know Infinite is somewhere right now just heart pounding at his chest going, all the adorbs! Because no, he's the true one like that. But, and of course, now the two of you are living together, and actually something I want to ask the both of you is, because, speaking Scottish person to Scottish person, I live in Inverness, you're down in Dundee, this mysterious city that I've never actually visited, by the way. Only when I haven't.
We need to fix that sometime.
Oh, I'm hoping to come down soon. It is on my to-do list, because one thing I actually have always wondered about Dundee, because, I've heard other people talk about it over the years, and, well, we live in Scotland, let's be honest, most of the stuff we hear about any place is not usually that good. But
yeah.
But actually, I have heard that, particularly in the last couple of years, Dundee has really been growing, particularly in like the digital sector and things that are going on. But what's the creative scene like there?
V&A just opened.
Yeah. That's one of the major things. The Victoria and Albert Museum just opened here, and that's a pretty major thing in terms of creativity, because it's the only other one outside of London. Like, this is a prestigious museum, which the only other branch of it is in friggin' London itself, and it is basically a massive art museum. So, I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know in terms of, like, the creative scene or the art scene, in that we have that. I mean, there's also the Duncan and Jordanson College of Art and Design. That particular college, well, it's part of the Dundee University, that has produced talent, it's helped... there's people that have gone there who have then gone on to do things like work on, small things like, The Incredible Hulk, Avengers, little films you might have heard. Also folks there that have gone on to work for, companies you might have heard of, like Wetaworks and Disney. So yeah, the alumni from there, that gives you a good idea of what the creative scene is like in this city. There's an awful lot of talent, especially in the colleges and the universities, and as I say, there's also the V&A which has opened up, which is also with the folk who attend TJ CAD have there's a special deal with the university that allows them to go there and make special use of some of the resources and so forth. So it's safe to say that it is thriving, and as you mentioned there with the digital scene, with games and so forth, this is a fact that maybe not many people will know, but Grand Theft Auto was born here. The company that made Grand Theft Auto, the very first one, DMA, that was actually a development house that came together at Abertay University, and they made the first Grand Theft Auto, and that was actually done here in Dundee itself, I think. And then they went on, of course, to make Grand Theft Auto 2, and then then they became Rockstar, and, now the whole world knows about them. But yeah, they had their start here in Dundee. So, and there's still plenty of software houses here as well. There's Cobra Mobile, there's, what's their names? Outplay, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Outplay, there's... Tag games as well. There's quite a few. There's both mobile developers and bigger name developers as well. I mean, also one worth mentioning is Real Time Worlds, who made Crackdown on the Xbox 360 and stuff. They were here as well until unfortunately they went into administration and so forth. But they were based here in Dundee too.
Yeah, it was a shame to see that that studio shut down, because, I mean, Crackdown was a hugely underrated game. And, of course, you mentioned GTA there. By the way, that's Scottish, that's ours. And I've got to be honest with you, I am not that surprised that GTA was made in Dundee, because, well, it's GTA. Like, I'm not surprised.
Can you imagine if there was a Dundonian edition of GTA, though?
I'm waiting to see something like that.
You've been arrested, pal. You're going to jail.
Well, actually, I tell you what, no joke. I remember seeing about a year or so ago, some digital artist in Inverness, actually made a digital art piece of a GTA Inverness, and I just about lost it. Because the thing I remember on it was it had out of all the things they could have put on the front cover, they put the street preacher, which just cracked me up. If you live in Inverness, you'll know who he is, but. Yes, no, GTA is Scottish, and that's lovely.
My gosh, look, I mean, that would be hilarious if they did someday make a Scottish version of GTA. But the problem is, of course, then everything would have to be subtitled, because nobody outside of Scotland would have the slightest clue what anyone was saying.
Oh, exactly, just like they'd think it was like Gobbledygook or something.
Alright, pal.
I just like how the default accent now for any of the villains in this are Scottish Neds. Just alright, pal.
Give some change, pal. Like you'd be walking along the street and there'd be a guy being like, "Big issue, pal."
That's so true. It's so true.
You guys, what do you like?
Oh, I've actually got a tear in my eye. Just. Oh, good lord. Yes, Scottish GTA. They wouldn't actually be able to make it. It'd be too funny. Oh, boy. But I tell you what, actually, Sketch is... I mean, already you've just reminded me why it's great to have you back on the show, because it has been 3 long years since we actually had you on the first time round, and so much has changed since then, because, I mean, when we had you on, if I'm right, I believe you're on Canterlot Hill, actually.
I was. I mean, I think that was... Well, I would have been... Whatever it was that Everfree had metamorphosized into back by then. I mean, obviously, folk who are newer to this show will not, of course, know the long history that there is there, so a quick history lesson. Canterlot Hill, as it was last time we were talking, originally started out, or was basically an offshoot of Everfree Network, which was originally Everfree Radio, which got started all the way back when Pony first started being a thing. There was a group of folk got together and like, we should make a radio station for Brony music because there's an awful lot of it. And I remember, funny thing actually, this is a strange phenomenon I've noticed actually. It seems to be a trend with the podcasts in this community, or some of them anyway, in that I always seem to be one of the first people that they interview. Because, fun fact, if you go back to the very, very first podcast that Everfree Radio ever did, I was one of the guests on that, because I was friends with One Trick, and she was like, hey, do you want to like come on the show and be interviewed singing to your musician and stuff? I was like, sure, okay. And then also, of course, there's, yourselves. I was one of your first interviews back in the first season for that. And even for MBS, I was one of their first candidates for an interview as well. So maybe that's some sort of a litmus test for Brony podcasts is, can you handle an interview with me?
If you can actually get through the interview and do it all right, you're legitimised and you're allowed to continue on.
But no, so it was. They started out as Everfree Radio, and I joined up with that and started doing a regular show on that. And then they later became Everfree Network, and I kept on doing a regular show on like the live stream as well, so people would actually see me as well. So that was terrifying for them, no doubt. And then finally, when Everfree Network decided to stop operating as Everfree Network, there were other folk that took up the reins and took it up as Canterlot Hill. So yeah, it was a long while ago. I mean, I don't know if those guys are still going, because I have not been as active as I once was. And I think I would attribute that to perhaps a little bit of a waning interest in it, and also that, the community as a whole is kind of slowing down a little bit. It's not as active as once it was. There aren't as many... I would say there aren't quite as many people who are as wildly fanatical about Pony as there were once upon a time. If you look at the various fandoms around the world, you look at stuff like Star Trek, like Star Wars, or for like more recently Sonic and so forth. You look at these various fandoms, and of course when the thing that spawned them first came out, they were massively popular, became mainstream, loads of people got into it, and then as the years have gone by, the interest in them wanes somewhat as there's less new content and so forth, or just as people, maybe have had their fill of it and they move on. And I'd say that is where our fandom is at this point. This community of ours is at that point where it has been around for a number of years now. I mean, it started back in 2010, I believe. So it's been, it's just shy of 10 years it's been going now. That's a long, long time. That's an awful lot of Pony. And it's natural that people will, after a while, they'll move on from it. They'll go and do other things, because you can't spend your whole life doing one thing and being involved in one particular community, even if it is a lot of fun. But I guess that you get to the point where if you're no longer having as much fun as you did, then you find other things to do.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the pony times can't last forever, and I mean, we've already seen a fair few people leave the fandom, especially even in recent months, actually. And I mean, I was actually going to ask you, because obviously back then you were doing, you were on Carolot Hill, you were doing your live streams of a little bit of art on the sides, and obviously, it's been 3 years, a lot has changed, and same for yourself, Beth. I suppose, what would you say the biggest changes have been in the last couple of years, and where would the two of you actually like to go creatively in the next year or so?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to say...
that far ahead yet.
Yeah. We tend to take life a day as it comes at the moment. Certainly I would say, sort of semi-relatedly, I would say the biggest changes for ourselves in the past several years would have been the whole thing of moving in together, getting engaged, and all the rest of that. That's been some pretty massive changes. In terms of creativity, I think for me at the moment, I'm kind of looking to do more my own thing, sort of, like less things that have just been inspired by or derivative of any given fandom, and maybe something I can do that is more my own thing. And that's honestly something I'm still working on, because it takes time to do that, and it takes investment to do that. And the problem is when you have a full-time job, which you have to do to, keep living, keep having a roof over your head and so forth, it does kind of limit the time that you can have for doing other things. Because, there are times when you'll be like, I could maybe go and do something creative for a bit, but I'm kind of burned out from work and so forth. I'd rather just relax. So it can be difficult at times to find time to be creative. But I would say at the moment, the one thing I'm going to go on a tangent here for a moment is when you said about how people have left the fandom, I'm of the opinion that no one ever truly, quote-unquote, leaves a fandom. I think it's more a matter of your interest in it wanes over the years, but I don't think it's something that anyone ever truly leaves behind, because, even for myself, I will use the example again of the Sonic community, games and so forth. I would say I haven't truly left that fandom, so to speak, because I do still find my interest piqued when new games are announced for it, even if I wouldn't necessarily go and buy them or go and play them. I'm not as fanatical about that as I once was. Time was, it was a case of, there's been a new game released, I've totally got to have it. Now it's more a case of, there's a new game coming, but I'm not entirely sure whether I want to play it, but it's cool that this has been done. It's the same thing for me with Pony now. I'm no longer as, crazy about it as once I was, in terms of it's a case of, I won't make the effort to watch it live when it comes out, because I'm not as fussed about catching it live. I do still like keeping up with it, but I'm not going to, go nuts if I miss seeing it live. It's more a case of, I'll catch it later when I can fit it into my life. And say in terms of creative direction, it's a case of I'm kind of more moving away from stuff that's pony related and so on. Doesn't mean that I'm not still interested in it, because I have quite a few friends who are part of the community, or who were an active part of the community, and I met through it. So it's not like I've completely forgotten about it, but I'd say I'm not as quote-unquote on fire for it as I once was. And I'm now looking for other things to take inspiration from and to fire my imagination, so to speak.
Right, now, Beth, what do you think?
Well, for me, I don't know. I'm just in that place where it's like, I have work, I enjoy, I want to keep that, but I'm trying to find the balance. So I guess I'll just be doing that, trying to find the balance between work and other work, I guess.
No, that's entirely fair enough. And the thing is, it sounds like you're in a great place at the moment and you're enjoying what you're doing, and you've got Sketchy and you're keeping him tamed with his guitar. So frankly, you're I mean, it's all relative in terms of the taming, but you know what I mean. But no, it does seem like things are in a great place for the both of you, and you both seem really happy. And, you know, creatively, I'm glad to see that, you know, Beth, you've been doing it as well as you have been with the art and sketch. I'm glad to hear that you've got plans for the future in terms of where you're actually planning on going, you know, finding your own sound and your own thing. And I'll be very curious to see what Sketchy sound is sounding like.
And one of the things I forgot to mention there actually is also that I am, of course, still actively writing. I mean, I'll confess here I haven't actually watched the episode where you interviewed him yet, but I do still work closely with Mecca, because he may or may not have informed you, or you may be aware, that I am currently the main writer for Robot Octavia.
Oh, indeed, of course, the Ask Tumblr blog.
Yes, the Ask blog. I currently am the main story writer for that. Now, he and I do have some ideas for what we will do after we bring that to a conclusion. We do have some creative ideas for things. So it's there's writing that I'm doing as well as music and so forth as well. It's one of these things, I tend to go through seasons of wanting to do one thing more than another. So I'll have seasons where I feel more like doing creative writing than anything else because I've got an itch to do that and I have a really great idea, and I'll, you know, run with that for a while. And then after a while of doing that, I might sort of kind of lose steam a bit and set it aside for a while and engage one of my other creative pursuits like music or drawing. So for me, it's a case of I go through seasons of wanting to do one thing or another, and I'll indulge that itch while it's there and then come back to it at a later time, because it may just be that I just need to take a break from it for a bit in order to get some headspace and some further inspiration to work on it some more. So it's just one of those things. It comes and it goes, so to speak.
Well, that's understandable. That entirely makes sense. But I actually tell you what, I'm having a look at the recording time, and we're actually a little bit over half an hour just now.
Oh,
What?
snap.
Oh no, it's already happened. Sketch has actually talked for 25 minutes of that, I think. He's been in more of this episode than you and I have been, Beth.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, listen, no complaints there. No complaints.
What can I say? I talk a lot.
You talk a lot, but very eloquently and always on good subjects, so no complaints there. But I tell you what, we should actually probably bring this show to a close. So, well, firstly, thank you both for actually coming on the show, and especially for you, Sketch, because, I mean, you've been on once. Frankly, I'm surprised you came back after the first time, so I thank you very much for that. And,
You're
well,
welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And, well, my final question for yourself, Beth, is where can we find you on the internet? Where can we send our followers?
You find me under Bethiebo most places. So it's like Bethiebo on DeviantArt and Tumblr. Twitter, I think, is Bethy_Bo. And then if you wanted to find Etsy, you have to search for Copper's Creative Corner. Or Copper's Crafty Corner, rather.
Yes.
I forgot my own shop name for a minute. How bad is that? It shows how little time I've had to dedicate to it recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's alright. Well, what we'll do is we'll put all those links in the description below, so Phillies, Gentle Colts, everyone otherwise, if you want to see what Beth's up to, check the links there. And of course, Sketchy, you're all over the web as well.
I am, yes. You can find me on SoundCloud, on Bandcamp, on Twitter, on DeviantArt. and on FilmFiction as well. I tend to uniformly use the name Sketchy Sounds because, hey, brand recognition, you. So, I mean, if you just search for Sketchy Sounds and, like, and just specify a site, you'll probably find me there. I am easy to find. I tend to use, like, the same iconography everywhere as well, so chances are, if you see, white horse with a brown mane and a certain cutie mark, that's, the whole thing with the alto clef with the pencil through it, it's most likely me.
Oh, no worries. Well, like I said, we'll put the links in the description below, so if you want to see music or memes, check out Sketchy Sounds. And, we've got to wrap up the show. Firstly, thanks to Bethiebo and Sketchy Sounds for being on the show. My thanks to you guys for watching. And, of course, if you want to get in contact with us, for whatever reason, constructive criticism, praise for the throw, perhaps you're a creator and you want to get in touch with us about being interviewed, plenty of ways to get in touch. We have our email address at highlandbronies@hotmail.com. We also have the YouTube, the Facebook, the Twitter, there's a Tumblr. We're all over the webs. Just come message us, one and all. We'd love to hear from you all. And, well, I'm afraid it is actually time to end the show. And normally, this is the point where I would say, please subscribe. But the last thing I'm going to say is, Sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been watching any Sonic Underground recently? Oh, help me, no. Oh.